Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Hi, hi, you glorious divine creation. Hi, you wonderful being made in the image and likeness of God. Hi, you divine miracle. Thanks for joining in. So, you know, not so long ago, let's see, that was in the so that would have been 60 years ago. It started about 70 years ago. What I consider to be one of the most amazing events in human history happened in Germany. For some of you, you're in the country where, for me, one of, if not the most important thing that's ever happened on this planet happened. Um, this very simple, humble man, Bruno Groening, um, shows up, and the unfathomable, the unimaginable starts happening. Miracles, straight up miracles. And, you know, he was just so humble and so he never read an entire book all the way through in his life. And yet he knew, as one person who met him during that time, they said it seemed as if he knew everything. And he gives little examples here and there. For example, he would, once he was just talking about how the stomach digests food, and he gave intimate, intricate details, and yet I don't believe it was something that he had read in a book. He was just able to see. He was able to read people's minds. He was able to know not just their past, he was able to see their future. He was able to see people's past lives. We read something a couple days ago where he said when he, is basically walking down the street, he wasn't just seeing everything that was here. Now he was able to see everything that had ever been here. And I'm guessing he was able to see, to my knowledge, he never said it, and yet I'm also guessing he was able to see quite a bit of what would be. So while he was simple and humble, and while he didn't read a single book. That's not to say he didn't glance through books or read a part of a book. In some ways, he knew, um, how much he knew we can't even fathom. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a being like this man, Bruno Groening, for any of you who are new. That's him, the bigger picture right there. To just be sitting in this room and to know everything that had ever been in this spot here on Earth. And he gave what he called life wisdom. Leibens, oh, I thought I could say it in German. Lebensweisheit. Wisdom of life, um, but Leben doesn't just mean life, it also means existence. How to navigate this thing called life or existence. And again, this was not something he learned in books. This is what he just directly knew. My understanding is what not just what he knew and saw, but what he heard directly from God. So, and around him, miracles happened. Blind people regained their vision. Paralyzed people stood up out of their wheelchair. People who were deaf suddenly could hear. How are such things possible? Well, he said it's actually a lot simpler than we think. We think of something like imagine someone who's born blind and then they regain their vision. It's we can't even begin to conceive, and that's without like a medical or surgical intervention, a technological intervention. We could maybe be like, well, with the right technology, they could rebuild the eye, or but he didn't have such technology. He had a spiritual technology. And he said it's actually a lot simpler, than what we can imagine. That that there's this thing which he would call it by many names. He would sometimes call it God. Sometimes he would call it the good. Um, Sometimes, well, those are the two names I'm aware of. He would also say God is existence or life, or God is love. That's a really deep statement, to think that God is life itself or existence itself. But he said this thing, God, is constantly sending forth an energy which can heal. And it's very simple, actually, to take in this energy, um, to experience what we would call miraculous. And he just said it's just natural, just that humanity has forgotten it, that humanity had moved so far away from God and nature that they weren't in touch with this energy. And so tens of thousands of healings happened around him while he was in his body. And before he left his body, he said, "After I am gone, the healings will continue. Everyone will become their own physician. Everyone will receive help and healing inside of themselves." So it wasn't just like, I was born in 1973 and he left his body in 1959. So it's not like, oh, I missed my chance for healing. Um, it's like, yes, I missed my chance to shake his hand. Um, but he said that after he was no longer here, the healings would continue, and they have. I've experienced straight up what, again, I would call miracles. I know many, many people who have, and I've read many, many, many documented reports of healings. The healings are continuing. And it's not really complicated at all how to experience this. So, one of the key things he taught was how to absorb this energy. And the way to do that is to um, take it directly into your body. And he gave just a few simple principles to help that happen. First of all, he said, sit with your legs uncrossed and your arms not crossed either. So feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards. Back, not slouched, but not, stiff, but just a relaxed, upright position. Then close your eyes. Think of something that makes you joyful, makes you happy. My cat is a go-to for me. I just think of her and I feel happy. So what's something that as soon as you think of it, your heart smiles? Now may sound a little strange, and yet it's a key part. Now hand over illnesses, burdens, worries to a spiritual helper you trust. And Bruno Groening said he was one such person, but he never claimed to be the only one. Hand over your illnesses to someone like Bruno, or to life, God, existence itself. Hand them over. And then observe your body, having the will, the intention to take in this energy. You don't have to believe in it. That helps. You do need to be open to the possibility that what I'm saying is true. I'm not asking you to blindly believe anything I say. I am asking you to be open to it and find out for yourself. So, once again, the technique, the physical posture we talked about, and closing your eyes, and then observing the body, having the will, the intention to take in this energy. Noticing what you feel, having the will, the intention to take this energy in, just keep coming back to noticing what you feel. Keep coming back to your intention to take this energy in. Observing the body, so, to anyone who's new to this information or this practice, sometimes people feel something very strongly and sometimes they don't initially. And Bruno Groening spoke about that, that this, we know all about our five senses, right? We use our five senses to navigate this world. But Bruno Groening spoke of that human beings have the capacity to feel and sense energy. However, it's just kind of fallen asleep. And he said sometimes it takes a little time for this capacity to wake up. So if you didn't feel anything, that's okay. And I had a friend who I had the honor of introducing him to this information. And when he heard about it, he said, "Yes, this feels true." And the first time he did this practice, um, he said he felt something. He wasn't quite sure what it was, but he said he felt something. And then for the next 2 months, he did this practice both on his own, and then he would come to group meetings. And um, he said he didn't feel anything. He was almost kind of worried, like, oh, maybe this isn't going to work. Maybe I didn't actually feel something the first time. But his heart, he said, but this feels true. I can't explain it, but I'm drawn to this. And so he kept going, even to the meetings, and he kept practicing this on his own, even though he didn't feel anything. And after about 2.5 months, he neck pain of 20 years just vanished. One day it was there, the next day it was gone. And soon after that, whenever he did this practice of observing the body, he was so strongly able to feel what I feel and many others feel, this, first of all, feeling of peace, a tingling, a flow, a movement, a lightness of being. Some people feel warmth, others feel cold. And so for this video, if it's not already like that, I'm going to have a picture of Bruno Groening on it where the energy was actually captured on a photograph. It's amazing. Hmm. So the logic behind all of this is very simple, but it's also profound. The logic is that there is this reality, being, truth called God, or that's been called God. I sometimes hesitate to use that word because so many so many of us have been taught just the most horrific things about God, that where we can't even believe in God anymore. There's been so much abuse in the name of God. Yet Bruno Groening spoke very simply. He said, God is, as I said, God is existence, life, beingness. God is love. God never punishes, Bruno Groening said. God is our parent, that we are truly children of God. And that's why I started this video off. A divine, as saying, hi, divine creations, hi, divine marvels. Those are Bruno Groening's exact words, that that's what we are. Beautiful. Heather Simpson wrote the source. That's a word that I use often. I just think of God as source, meaning the source of everything and the source of me, that which made me. So if you're new to this information, just please put aside your ideas about who or what God is and just be open. Open to the idea that there is a loving, good reality that is available to help us. So let's spend, my computer's making a little noise, so I'm going to take this opportunity to, I think it's overheating. So let's reflect on all this and spend a little time in silence, continuing to observe the body, taking in the good, noticing what you feel, having the intention to absorb this energy, and having the intention to be freed of all illnesses, all burdens. Noticing, noticing what you feel, having the intention to take this energy in, just keep coming back to the present moment. So, as I said, I was open minded but skeptical about all of this. And, but I was also desperate. Desperation sure does something to open our minds. Um, and because I had many, 7, 8, 9 very serious medical conditions. I was 39 years young and watching my body fall apart. And honestly, not kind of headed to the grave. I probably had another year or so left to live. My health was deteriorating before my eyes. And so I found out about this information and I was open. I didn't really feel anything the first couple times I did it. Um, but then I just, it's kind of like my friend. I was like, I think this is true. Um, I think this is real, which is pretty revolutionary because I live in this spiritual town where there's all sorts of spiritual things that are and metaphysical things that are, upon deeper investigation, just pretty much nonsense. But there's something about this that felt very different from, and I've been a spiritual seeker for a long time, having checked out many different things, but something felt very different here. Couldn't put my finger on it. And then after about maybe a month and a half, maybe 2 months, I was in a group meeting, not so different from this, and and my thumb started to itch. But it's not so much it itched. It's just I was sitting here doing I was sitting there doing the technique, and then all of a sudden I noticed my finger, this finger, was going like this. It was rubbing my thumb. Like it wasn't something I was doing, it was happening. And I just looked at it and I'm like, this is strange. And then I looked at my thumb and I was shocked because 3 years before I had received a second-degree burn on my thumb, which is where the top layer of the skin is permanently burnt off. It just doesn't grow back. And so I just basically had this red spot on my thumb. No big deal. I wasn't at the meeting to heal my thumb. I had bigger issues. I just had accepted it and was living with it. But so at this meeting, I look at it and the red spot had gone from bright red to light red. And I just didn't know what was going on. I was shocked. And then over the next week and a half, 2 weeks maybe, I think a week and a half, I watched it go from bright red to light red to dark pink to light pink to pale to white to pale to skin color. And then the skin grew back and even the fingerprint grew back. On that part of my thumb, the fingerprint was burnt off and it grew back after 3 years. Medically, this is impossible. According to my doctor, the part of the skin that is involved in regeneration had been destroyed. So from a medical point of view, this violates the laws of biology. But according to Bruno Groening, there is a higher law. There is a force for which, as he said, nothing is incurable, nothing is impossible. So I don't expect you to believe what I'm saying. I do ask you to be open. And that was the first of many miracles. And I'm still alive. And this is 9 years later. Like I said, I was headed to the grave. And I experienced I got my health back. Not only am I still alive, but I had 7 or 8 very significant healings that literally saved my life and turned my life around. So, I'm not asking you to join a club or pay me anything. What I am asking is that you be open to the possibility that what I'm saying is true. And I'm not the only one this has happened to. The person who introduced this to me, she had brain swelling. Just her brain was swollen in certain places, and the doctors had no idea what was causing it. And she had tried all sorts of holistic things to help with it. And this brain swelling was giving her anxiety, insomnia, and bipolar depression, and she just couldn't think straight. The doctors had no clue what was causing it. And soon after she found this information, it completely healed, as did all of the side effects of it. And that's just one of many. I could sit here and talk for probably an hour of all the people I've met, the healings I could just tell you, talk pretty much nonstop for an hour on the healings I've experienced, and then another hour on the people I've personally met who have experienced healings, and then another hour on the medically documented reports of healing that I've read. So I thought I just turned that off. Okay. So um, please don't take my word for it, but please do be open to what I'm saying is true. So what I've given here is just a little introduction. If you'd like to know more, um, please do visit my website, www.thehealingstream.org. You can also come by this YouTube channel. And then on this channel, I've made a longer version of this video, about an hour, where I go over sort of the basic principles of what Bruno Groening taught, of how to become your own healer physician. And the way I understand it is that if we look around the universe, and the universe is pretty big, we can't even fathom. This Earth is pretty big. This solar system, this galaxy, we can't even fathom. We can almost fathom with our minds how big the Earth is now that we have cars. So we have a frame of reference like, oh, if I drove all the way around the world, it would take me, I don't know how long would it would probably take like 60 hours. So we have a little frame of reference for how big this Earth is, but we have no conceivable frame of reference really for even how big our solar system is, much less our galaxy, much less the universe. So some way, somehow, some force, and Bruno Groening spoke of the divine force, the divine energy, created all of this. And so before that divine force, a burn on a thumb, a terminal case of cancer, a disability, a mental illness, it's nothing before that power. Before that power, all the illnesses I came to this teaching with are like a grain of sand in the ocean. It's nothing. And hence, Bruno Groening said, nothing is incurable. Nothing is impossible. God is the supreme physician for all of humanity. Heather wrote, did you experience regulating? Yes, I did. Not for this, not for the healing of the thumb. And that's something that Bruno Groening spoke about, which is that sometimes a condition can worsen, not little, it can worsen before it gets better. I had chronic inflammation of the knees. And so as my knees were healing, there were moments where there was like the pain was 10 times worse than it had ever been. So if you do this practice and you feel a temporary worsening, it's not getting worse, it's actually getting better. He described that as part of the healing process. So let's spend a minute or two together reflecting on all this, taking in the good through observing our bodies, noticing what you feel, having the intention to absorb this energy. And so part of this practice is doing it on your own every day. Bruno Groening likened us to a battery that needs to be charged up. And we know to eat every day, just as a human, as a race, we've forgotten to charge ourselves up with life energy every day. So thank you so much for dropping by this video. Thank you to all the people who joined in live. Hello, Serene Within. Hello, hug received and returned, Melanie. Thank you, Heather, for your participation. And thank you to everyone who joined in live and watched this. Take care, and I wish you a day full of good energy. Much love.